Hello, I'm Vanessa.
Hello, this is Jared Ramirez.
Hello, I'm Morgan.
Hello, everyone. My name is McKenna.
Hello, my name is Janelle.
Hi guys, my name is Jose.
Hello, I am Michelle. Hi everyone, this is Michelle again. I'm going to be talking about the general summary of the movie. So Ellen is a 20-year-old woman who suffers from anorexia nervosa. After she's kicked out of her current recovery home because of her attitude, her stepmother, and her absent father managed to get her a spot at another recovery home. And this particular recovery home is ran by an unorthodox doctor. In the midst of her family problems and uncertainties, this home helps her to bond with people who have similar problems and even find a love interest who helps her to follow her path to self-discovery and eventually acceptance. To give you a better understanding of basically what the director was trying to capture in this film, I'm going to be playing the trailer on the next slide. I do want to warn you that there are some triggering images. There's also profanity in the trailer as well. So if this isn't something that you wish to experience, please feel free to mute the slide, walk away. The trailer will be over in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So you can just watch the clock and then come back whenever it's finished. All right, thanks.
All right, ready? 280 for the pork, 350 for the buttered noodles, 150 for the roll, and 75 for butter.
It's like you have calorie Asperger's.
That's not breakfast. Neither is coffee.
You do a lot of sit-ups. I'm not going to treat you if you aren't interested in living.
Good speech. I've got it under control.
Isn't it funny? Piece of cake.
I've got it under control. I've got it under control.
You okay, honey? I just got up too fast.
So, welcome to our new house member, Ellen.
Hi.
Oh my god.
How do you do it? Eat, I mean.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm really fucking hungry.
Huh? You look like a ghost.
I feel kind of angry. It's my life, too. I don't get to have a sister.
What's going on with you?
I just don't see the point. People say they love you.
But what they mean is they love how loving you makes them feel about themselves.
I don't even know where to start with that. There's all kinds of wrong.
The way that you're going, one day you won't wake up.
I can't stop.
Every time you hear that voice, I want you to tell it to fuck off. Fuck off, boys! Somebody tell me why we're here.
Because we're alive.
Very good.
Some of them actually seem like they're doing okay. Like they might get lives and be semi-interesting people.
Did you just say something optimistic?
I did say semi.
A short description of the main characters. Ellen is a 20-year-old college dropout due to anorexia nervosa. She lives with her stepmother and her biological father, who is never in the picture throughout the movie. Ellen's stepmother is very involved with her illness, however, she doesn't do it in a socially acceptable manner, and she usually overspeaks and oversteps her boundaries throughout the movie. Ellen's family intends to assist her, however, they do it in a very awkward and erroneous way, and this makes Ellen close off more and more. For example, in one of the scenes, Ellen's stepmother makes her a hamburger cake which says "eat up," which was very awkward during their lunch. Things like this make it difficult for Ellen's family to assist her. Despite all these adversaries, Ellen, her family, and her newest friends show deep empathy and care towards one another. And at the end of the movie, Ellen has an awakening where she sees who she has become physically and internally, which makes her want to have a successful and fulfilling life towards the end of the movie. The movie doesn't show if she achieved it or not, but it does show and portray how anorexia and other eating disorders can really affect a person in their spirit, their mind, and their body. It also shows how it can affect the family and friends around a person suffering these diseases.
Next, we're going to be talking about the classic symptoms of anorexia. This includes low weight, calorie restriction and excessive exercising, prominent cheekbones, visible ribs and spine. Throughout the movie, Ellen would do these sit-ups, especially at night as exercising was prohibited in the home. As you can see in this image, you can see a little bit of bruising on her spine, which is a symptom or a sign of those sit-ups. Amenorrhea, which is the absence of a menstrual cycle. She had told her doctor that she hadn't had her period in a really long time. Lanugo, this is that fine browny hair we often see in our newborns. This is Ellen's body's defense mechanism of trying to keep her warm due to that low body fat index. Intense fear of weight. Throughout the movie, she wrapped her fingers around her arm to ensure that she wasn't gaining any sort of weight. Restricting calories. Throughout the movie, her sister and some members within the home had told her she had calorie Asperger's. What they meant by this was that she was able to accurately estimate all of the calories that she was consuming. More women than men obtained this illness. The movie has 5 girls in the home and 1 male. Petechiae and ecchymosis, distorted body image, fainting, chewing and spitting disorder. When Ellen went to a restaurant, she would chew her food and then she would spit it out. So she gets the taste of it, but then she doesn't actually get the full nutrients. Smoker, Ellen was a smoker, wears baggy and layers of clothes, medication noncompliance. So Ellen would flush her antidepressants down the toilet because they would make her gain weight. Anorexia not only affects Ellen, but her family members and friends as well, including those who are a part of that recovery program. There's a family role strain. Ellen's mother feels this unequipped to continue to care for her daughter's illness. There was a disconnection between Ellen and her mother as she was an infant, therefore her mother had the desire to fill this void. At the end of the movie, her mom actually fed her with a bottle as if she was a baby. Her stepmother is very concerned and sends her to a well-known doctor for anorexia, which is then when she's put into that home. Her sister is angry and claims that she doesn't get it. Her family lives in this constant fear that Ellen's going to die due to her condition. Her ability to calculate these, her calories at Calorie Asperger's has affected those in the recovery program. For example, there was a patient who had a feeding tube who appeared distraught when Ellen had told her how many calories was in that Gevity. Her defiant behavior affected patients within that home. So throughout the movie, Ellen would repeatedly snap at the other patients.
Hello, I'm Janelle, and I'll be talking about the treatments that took place within the movie To the Bone. The main character, Ellen, was in an inpatient setting that had group therapy, family therapy, and cognitive-based therapies. The group therapy was twice a day. The morning therapy session was pretty formal for the group. They talked about their struggles, their victories, and any issues they may be having in the house. The group therapy also included going on outings and sitting at the dining table for meals together with the group. Family therapy included Ellen's biological mother, her stepmother, her biological mother's partner, and her half-sister. Some of the obstacles to Ellen's treatment was her family dysfunction. It was pretty obvious in the family therapy scene when Ellen's father didn't bother to show up for her family therapy session, and then her biological mother and her partner were in a disagreement, pretty obvious disagreement with her stepmother. Ellen's stepmother really wanted to help Ellen, but she didn't really know how to approach the subject without criticizing Ellen. Ellen's biological mother was bipolar and she lived in another state. Ellen used to live with her mother and her mother's partner, but they had to put her out because they could no longer deal with her illness. Another huge obstacle to Ellen's treatment was Ellen's thinking she had everything under control, which is something that opens up the movie, where you hear Ellen saying, "I've got it under control." And then there's a scene about 10 minutes into the movie where Ellen and her half sister are walking up a hill, and they're sitting at the top of the hill and they're having a conversation. And Ellen tells her sister, "I've got it under control. Nothing bad is going to happen." So her sister responds, "How many people do you think are down there?" And Ellen, she responds, "About 2 million. And her sister looks at her and says, "I bet a bunch of them who are about to die just said the exact same thing." And then the scene kind of goes quiet and the camera kind of just looks at Ellen. Some of the pros of the treatment was it's pretty self-directed, very cognitive-based therapy. Patients were encouraged to find their reason for wanting to live. They were directed to recognize their struggles and weaknesses, such as with meal times. They were able to choose their own foods and also able to choose whether they ate or not. If they chose to eat, then they would earn points. And if they gained a little bit of weight or the victory showed up on the scales, then they would also earn points. With the point system, they could earn points for good behavior, which earned them extra privileges, such as going out of the house on their own. And there was also no talk about food. Another pro of treatment was the bathrooms were locked for 30 minutes after every meal. And even though you didn't have to eat, you still had to be present at the dining table for meals. Some of the cons of the treatment was because the environment was very relaxed and the patient care was more self-directed, there were no strict protocols to follow. So Ellen was still able to exercise excessively up in her room. And then there's also a scene where she finds a vomit bag underneath her roommate's bed. Hi, I'm Janelle, and now I am going to be discussing the evidence-based practice article on the treatment of anorexia nervosa. From 1980 to 2005, there were 6 major databases that were accessed to gather information on the treatments performed on adolescents and adults with anorexia nervosa. So the study looked at whether the patients were treated with just medication, just behavior therapy, or a combination of both behavior therapy and medication. The results ultimately showed that cognitive-based therapy, which also included behavior therapy, focuses on changing the unhealthy or unhelpful thoughts and behaviors. And it was the treatment of choice for adults because it allowed the client to maintain control. For adolescents, various types of family therapy was more effective because the adolescents depended more on the family unit. In the movie, you can actually see how allowing the client to maintain control is effective because Ellen, in the end, chooses for herself to go into therapy, and she's not actually being forced into it by her mother or her stepmother.
Hi everybody, this is Morgan. I just wanted to tell you guys about medications and treatments, not just in the movie, but in real life scenarios with patients with anorexia nervosa. So really it's good to start with an SSRI in conjunction with some psychotherapy. Generally they start with fluoxetine and go through a few others if that's not working. But in general, SSRIs may help with the relapse prevention for these patients and the psychiatric symptoms that are underlying their disorder. So it's important to know for these patients that SSRIs are not enough and that they really do need to seek therapy as well, and most effectively seen when paired with weight restoration measures and psychotherapy. In the movie, Eli, or Ellen, she was initially started on an antidepressant, which she refused to take and flushed down the toilet because she thought it would make her gain weight. So she was definitely, they tried to start her out on this kind of treatment, and then she was also placed inpatient where she did group therapy and family therapy as well as individualized sessions.
Hello again, this is Vanessa, and today I'm going to be talking about the interdisciplinary team that was provided for the patient in the movie. So we have the specialist, therapist, and inpatient nurse that were involved in Ellen's eating disorder, anorexia nervosa. So with the specialist, his name is Dr. Beckham, who uses unconventional methods in treating Ellen's eating disorder and helps admit Ellen into an inpatient facility. In addition, the doctor implemented family therapy in the treatment plan to get an insight of Ellen's eating disorder and took the group of patients on different trips. The therapist. So she was seen during group therapy and talked with Ellen and the other patients at the home about their thoughts and feelings and how their eating disorder impacts them. So there are 2 sessions that she gives. So one in the morning, which is more focused, and one at the end of the day. So at the end of the day check-in, the therapist talks and listens to them when they are discussing about their struggles and victories. We have the inpatient nurse. The inpatient nurse helps take care of Ellen in the group home. So she is seen giving food and weighing patients. She also educates Ellen that she is able to eat whatever she wants and that they can give that to her. And no one can leave the table during mealtime, and the bathrooms are locked for 30 minutes after. Overall, the inpatient nurse in the home was to assess, monitor, and ensure the safety of Ellen and the patients. However, other team members that were not present in the movie that can help with eating disorders can include psychologists, dietitians, social workers, occupational therapists, and more. I believe that this was important to include because some patients can benefit from working with 1 to 2 professionals, while others can require multiple professionals in their treatment plan for their eating disorder. So for a psychologist, they can conduct assessment, create treatment plans to address any mental or emotional issues that are associated with their eating disorder, and provide counseling. Social workers focus on the patient's social systems that include their stressors and family. To help, they will provide education, counseling, and advocate for them. Dietitians can help give guidance and support them through planning for their needs. They can perform nutrition assessments. Lastly, an occupational therapist can assess the impact of patients' eating disorder on their daily living and help patients to develop life skills to function in their everyday lives and perform everyday activities such as going to school, work, and self-care.
I'll be going over the safety concerns associated with anorexia nervosa, which are highlighted in the film. The first one is imbalanced nutrition. So we know that Ellen is severely underweight because she's not eating. She's starving herself. And when she does eat, she does things to burn those calories as soon as possible. So she goes on runs, she goes on hikes, and does a lot of sit-ups. In one scene, the program director is doing a physical assessment on her, and he notices bruising down her spine, and they're there because of all of the sit-ups that she does. At one point in the movie, she is told that she's 1 day away from getting tubed. There's another patient who, in the same program, who had an NG tube placed to administer feeding, and it's safe to assume that she would get an NG tube or something similar to keep her body running, since she's not eating. And she also smokes, and smoking is an appetite suppressant, so that also contributes to her not getting the nutrients that her body needs to continue running. The second one is risk for injury. There's a scene where she's at a bus station and she gets up and she faints. Luckily, there are people there to help her, but she could have hit her head or had a whole list of other issues. But the main one associated with risk for injury are electrolyte imbalances. We know that when your electrolytes aren't balanced, you could have a lot of issues, namely cardiac arrhythmias, and you can also cause a lot of organ damage, specifically to your kidneys, your liver, again, your heart. A lot of things can go wrong. And there's, throughout the film, this idea that she could die if she continues on the path that she's on is very present. Her sister tells her that, everyone tells her that, she knows that. So obviously, not only risk for injury, but also risk for death. And so that's why her stepmother finds this program, because she knows that her stepdaughter needs help. The third thing is ineffective coping. So, as I said before, she smokes, so she uses smoking as a way to relieve some of the stress that she's under. And a few things that contribute to her stress are her dysfunctional family. Her mom and her dad they couldn't really handle her condition, so her mom moved away. Her dad is always at work, and he's always unavailable to her, to Ellen. And the director shows this by actually never showing him on screen. You sometimes hearing him argue behind closed doors, but you actually never see him. And so she's an artist. She uses her art as a form of coping. But as it becomes obvious throughout the film, she did some artwork, and after an unfortunate series of events, a girl took her life because she saw Ellen's work and she could really relate. And so the girl who killed herself, her parents blame Ellen for the death of their daughter. And so she carries around that guilt as well. So not only does she have that, all that guilt from the death of that girl, but also her feelings of abandonment by her parents. And so she uses sarcasm and cynicism to protect herself. And this blinds her from seeing the help that is available for her and the people that care for her. The fourth thing is chronic low self-esteem, powerlessness. So obviously we know that people with anorexia, they closely link their weight and how they look to their value as a person. And so Ellen shows this. She's never satisfied with how she looks, and until later on in the film when she's able to see herself as she really is. In one scene, they're having a family group session. The dad's not there, of course, because he had to work. And her biological mother blame the stepmother and her father for placing unreasonable expectations on Ellen, and say that contributed to her obtaining this condition. And so this leads to Ellen feeling powerless, and she uses anorexia to kind of take back some of that control that she feels that she's lost. And as far as others, there's not really any physical safety concerns for others who have a loved one with anorexia, but there is a lot of emotional distress seeing a loved one having to deal with this condition and having them struggle. Risk behaviors, I said that there's all cultural expectations to be thin. At the beginning of the movie, the first scene actually, there's a group of patients that are in a program for anorexia, and they're talking about expectations that society has placed on them to be thin, and how being thin is associated with being valued, and how important that is. And that's reinforced by the media, and specifically now social media, and all those unreasonable expectations. The last thing is perfectionism. So personality traits of perfectionism, obsessive compulsiveness, and dysphoric mood make a person more susceptible to anorexia nervosa because, as I said before, it gives them a sense of control. And in this film, Ellen's life is very chaotic, and so she uses anorexia as a way to regain some control in her life.